From Drake the rapper to Biden the crapper. You saw what I did there? See, now if this doesn't get 1 million views, I don't know what will. Joe Biden, during his final farewell address, gave all of us, the American people, us peons, us peasants, us pheasants, us lowly people, a warning. Something that the Democrats are now realizing, there's an oligarchy taking shape in America. Really, Biden? Really? That's very thought-provoking, very shocking, but it's already there. I mean, you were in politics for about 50 years. You helped design the system, Biden. Are you that senile that you forgot what you did? Chances are probably yes. So in Biden's farewell address, he speaks to the American people from his heart. Biden, in his final farewell address. Take it away, Biden.
That's why my farewell address tonight, I want to warn the country of some things that give me great concern. This is a dangerous concentration, and that's a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a very few ultra-wealthy people. And the dangerous consequences if their abuse of power is left unchecked. Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead. We see the consequences all across America, and we've seen it before, more than a century ago. But the American people stood up to the robber barons back then and busted the trusts. They didn't punish the wealthy, just made the wealthy play by the rules everybody else had to.
I'm sorry. When did that happen? Biden, you went on the record saying you gladly prostitute yourself to corporations. You sided with the credit card corporations to make student debt what it is. You sided with the banks, the institutions, Wall Street. You were there. Hi, I'm Joe Biden. Why are things so terrible? You made it that way, Joe. It's because of you, Joe. You and your fantastic friends in the United States Senate and House. It's because of you, Joe Biden, that we have an oligarchy. Okay? It's because of you and the Democrat Party, and yes, the Republican Party too, that things are the way they are. And let's not forget the Supreme Court. Making citizens united in McCutcheon's decision. Money is speech. Corporations are people. Where only the top 1% does us enough money, that liquid, cold, hard cash, to buy our politicians. And in turn, our politicians are going to do what they say. Like you did, Joe Biden. You said you'd prostitute yourself to corporations. And now you're like, tisk, tisk, tisk. And the only reason why he's doing this is his middle finger to the Democrats, most notably Nancy Pelosi, because, they kicked him out of the race. Old man Biden didn't want to go. He didn't want to leave. He never wanted to leave. But he was embarrassed, not only by that debate he did with Trump, but by the fact that also, oh my goodness, man, they did him wrong at the DNC convention, making him last to speak and all that other good jazz. But wait a minute, hold on. Without an original thought, look at him. He looks like he's asleep. Joe Biden invokes President Eisenhower, General Dwight D. Eisenhower. Let's get busy. Address about a military-industrial complex that Biden personally spent years spending trillions of dollars on. So in other words, there's a tech-industrial complex happening here in America. Well, no shite. It's here already. Man, it's like Joe Biden is like 10 years late, but okay. It's a farewell address. Keep on speaking, Joe. Tell the people how you really feel.
His farewell address, President Eisenhower spoke of the dangers of the military-industrial complex. He warned us then about, and I quote, the potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power, end of quote. 6 decades later, I'm equally concerned about the potential rise of a tech-industrial complex that could pose real dangers for our country as well. Americans are being buried under an avalanche of misinformation and disinformation, enabling the abuse of power. The free press is crumbling. Editors are disappearing.
Wait, the free press is crumbling? The free press is crumbling. Hold on, wait. Let's see if I heard that correctly. So the free press is crumbling. So with the free press crumbling, that indicates to and should indicate to all of you, number one, and this is the thing that frightens me the most as well. Have you forgotten that the same people who own the politicians, Joe Biden, also own the press? And that the press is right now hemorrhaging views because that whole Trump derangement syndrome, it's already been played out. All that fear mongering and all the stuff that those venture capitalists, vulture capitalists invested into, like a lot of those online articles and news sites, are going broke. They're going broke. They're going belly up. The free press has been crumbling for years, most notably on how the Barack Obama administration, which you were part of, Joe Biden, pushed Julian Assange into exile, but also how many whistleblowers were arrested too under your administration. And in turn, when Trump got inaugurated in 2016, when he became president, you laid down the foundations for the ongoing attack against free press to continue on. And of course, Biden, your 4 years have been absolutely abysmal for independent media. There's a lot of good channels that I know that are still suffering because of, the influence of federal government institutions on Facebook, YouTube, Google, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. The free press is crumbling because you helped make it crumble. Let's rewind that. YouTube rewind time.
Misinformation and disinformation, enabling the abuse of power. The free press is crumbling. Editors are disappearing. Social media is giving up on fact-checking. The truth is smothered by lies told for power and for profit. We must hold the social platforms accountable to protect our children, our families, and our very democracy. His farewell address, President.
So in other words, what this means is, hey, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, put down any kind of reforms you want to do and put on that jackboot and start kicking people. My goodness, Facebook and Twitter at the time, before it became X, played a very big role in suppressing that Hunter Biden laptop story, as well as other stories as well. Hell, I remember there were certain things you just couldn't even say on YouTube and still can't. Things have lightened up just a small percentage. But your administration helped pave that way. The vote blue, no matter whose sphere, definitely played a huge, influential role in the ongoing censorship that we are going to be dealing with, because I am ever afraid of the consequences and repercussions of the previous 4 years and what it will mean for the next 4 years, especially those in independent media. But hold on. There's more to the legacy of Joe Biden, such as, almost a whole year trying to get that ceasefire. By the way, how's that ceasefire going? Because I heard that it fell apart already.
After 8 months of nonstop negotiation, my administration, a ceasefire and a hostage deal has been reached by Israel and Hamas, the elements of which I laid out in great detail in May of this year. This plan was developed and negotiated by my team and will be largely implemented by the incoming administration. That's why I told my team to keep the incoming administration fully informed, because that's how it should be, working together as Americans. After 8 months of nonstop negotiation.
By the way, just so you guys know, already on outlets like Hotspot and Case Study QB, that there's an attack that took place. Israel killed 70 plus as Netanyahu delays cabinet vote on ceasefire deal. That's happening, by the way. So in other words, and by the way, even Trump also played a role in this, and it looks like that war is still continuous. Gaza's already a moonscape of Biden. It's not like you or Vice President Kamala Harris could actually really done more instead of just a year or however long it took you. Because you could have used your weight as being president of a major global superpower to, call for a ceasefire, but because AIPAC has bought a lot of our politicians, as Thomas Massey has correctly pointed out, yeah, the war is still continuous.
My administration.
But wait a minute, folks. Wait a minute. It gets better. Because besides all of this actions that Biden is saying in his farewell address, he had to give a middle finger to one person. You know who I'm talking about. You love her. You need that ice cream. Mama Bear herself. Because, and I want to give you a huge shout out to Unusual Whales. Breaking, President Biden says members of Congress should not trade stocks in his farewell address. Well, gee, Biden, only now you're talking about it? Great. It's only because you got hurt.
We need to get dark money. That's that hidden funding behind too many campaigns contributions. We need to get it out of our politics. We need to enact an 18-year time limit, time and term, for the strongest ethics and the strongest ethics reforms for our Supreme Court. We need to ban members of Congress from trading stock while they're in the Congress. We need to amend the Constitution to make clear that no president is immune from crimes that he or she commits while in office. The president's power is not limited. It's not absolute. We need to.
What's fascinating, though, is that ceasefire deal doesn't look like it's going to happen. And also preventing Congress from doing insider trading. You have people like Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi, who's made a career out of this. She is going to be returning back to Congress. We already saw her moving about in her walker. I want to read this right here. Prim 54. Get that money to help me win out of our political system. It's basically how he could crap on the floor before we go. So there you go. Jen Lynn says, what were you doing those 4 years you were like president? Yeah, exactly. Well, no, what he was doing was he was taking a nap, Jenny. So shame on you. Shame on you indeed. And Pam K36 says, gee, Joe, why didn't you do that? Well, it's because these politicians just don't have what it takes. And not to mention, why would they want to ruin their apple cart? But hold on, folks. If you want to see projection here, we're going to miss her, the White House press secretary. I'm going to miss her. Give it up for KJP. You know me.
President Biden, as you well know, has dedicated 50 years to public service. As he prepares to exit the White House and conclude his career, what's the message that he hopes to leave with the American people tonight?
Well, there was never a day he didn't crap his pants.
Well, I think what you said in that letter that the president wrote that came out this morning with a fact sheet of over 100 pages laying out what he has been able to deliver for the American people in just 4 years. He's done more in 4 years than most presidents have done in 2 terms. And I think obviously I'm going to let the president speak for himself, and he'll have an opportunity to do that when he addresses the American people later today in the Oval Address, his final farewell speech. This is a president who's been in public service for more than 50 years, senator, vice president, and now president. And he brought the experience with him to get things done for the American people. And so he's going to speak from his heart like he always does. He's going to talk about the possibilities of this country, meet the moment, talk about the future of this country.
And this is also glossing over the fact that your White House, that this entire administration covered up the fact that this man was not mentally sound. I dread to think of all the times this country came close to disaster because Biden was taking a nap and people didn't really understood what the marching orders were. No one was in charge. Not Biden, definitely not Kamala, who was in charge of the White House. You had an old man who was confused, sad, scared, not mentally there. And you're hyping him up of his 50 years of service, 50 years of service of being on the wrong side of history, voting for wars, being against people's right to choose, being against people in general just trying to be treated as equal citizens. You know, Biden was against busing and desegregation. He didn't want his white kids to be with black kids. Joe Biden was against a woman's right to choose. There was that. As I mentioned before, siding with the credit card corporations, make student debt what it is, signed the crime bill. You know why things are bad, especially with the prison industrial complex? Blame Joe Biden. He's the architect, one of many architects, not the architect, but many contributing members to the neoliberal prison you are in.
And also step a little bit backwards and say and lay out what he's done the last 4 years. So I know he's very proud of what he's been able to accomplish and looks really very much forward to this moment tonight.
And yet, according to the latest PBS News NPR Marist poll, 50% of Americans disapprove of President Biden's job performance, 42% approve. How does he reconcile this gap between what he views as achievements, infrastructure investments, job growth, climate initiatives, and the perception that he's failed to deliver?
The American people have gone through a lot in these 4 years.
Yeah, they gone through a lot in your 4 years. Inflation. Biden giving people a one-time $700, $750 or $770. Hey, ask the people of North and South Carolina, Georgia, Florida who were hit with that hurricane how they're doing. Why don't you go ahead and ask the people of Lahaina how they're doing? Or the people of East Palestine, Ohio? Or what about the people of LA County? My goodness, it's going to cost $200 billion plus to rebuild after the fires. And even then, who knows if LA will ever be able to truly recover again. I mean, that's a gut check for a city. And I do hope one day LA can stand on its own 2 feet. But this president, this administration has failed people before, U.S. citizens before, when a natural disaster hits their town, city, or state. It's abundantly clear that Joe Biden's full-on legacy in his farewell address, what it was missing was an apology on how his administration failed the American people. How his administration helped lay down the foundations for unending forever wars. How his administration is basically leaving us far worse than we were 4 years before. That's Joe Biden's real legacy. He's been on the wrong side of history, 50 years in politics, and all what he did was enrich himself and his family. He's surrounded by scandal. He's surrounded by corruption. This is the person who's also, folks, and I will not forget this either, maybe in his farewell address, he could have given an apology to the women that he's harassed, whose lives he made miserable, right? I mean, the same Joe Biden where there's videos after videos of him being uncomfortably odd, or is it that better yet? Hold on, let me rephrase that. Being very odd and making children, young people, feel very uncomfortable around him. And again, rumors can be spurned all around, but it's important for us to remember that this is Joe Biden's true legacy. And then, wait, gaffe after gaffe after gaffe after gaffe after gaffe, stutter after stutter after stutter. 4 years, the whole international community saw that the United States was being led by Mr. Magoo. And if I dated myself for that reference, hey, Mr. Magoo is an old cartoon character. You'll know what I'm talking about. Just Google it, okay? It's an old school cartoon of an old man that caused disaster after disaster wherever he walked. And that's Joe Biden. That's his legacy. To you, the American people. So to you, my audience, how do you feel about Joe Biden's legacy? Type 1 for, oh, it was great, Kit. 10 out of 10. Life-changing administration. And I will miss Joe Biden. Type 2. Dude, I'm surprised I'm still alive after these 4 years. Joe Biden helped contribute to the downfall of this republic and made things far more miserable. Never ask this question again. I wonder how many twos will be in the chat. I do wonder.